All right, welcome back. We're diving back into that BC hunting seminar, round 4.
Round 4.
But there's a lot to remember, right?
Absolutely.
So much information.
Tons.
So we're going to zero in today on
Sure.
the safety stuff,
Yeah.
right? The survival stuff, the
Yeah.
the make sure you come back in one piece kind of stuff.
They're really important stuff. And not just, I think a lot of people, they get that information and they kind of just,
Yeah.
they file it away and they're like, okay, well, I heard it. But it's really about
Right.
understanding, internalizing, knowing how to use it, when to use it.
Putting it into practice, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's all good, reading the manual, but then when you're actually out in the field and it's like,
Right.
oh, now what?
Exactly.
Right. So I think, one of the things they really hammered home in the seminar was this pre-trip planning. And it's more than just like, oh, I've got my backpack ready to go, right?
It's out for sure.
What are some of the things that we really, really need to think about ahead of time?
Well, one of the big things they talked about were those maps.
Maps, yeah.
You really want to study your maps. Like, you want to know that hunting area like the back of your hand. Know the terrain where there might be any dangerous areas, maybe some escape routes if something happens.
Right.
So it's really all about familiarizing yourself with the area before you even step foot in it.
I was just thinking, I went on this trip last year, and it was with a buddy of mine, and I almost completely missed this one trail marker.
Oh,
And he just had this eagle eye. He spotted it.
wow.
And I was like, if I was by myself, I would have been like, where am I? I have no idea.
That's a great point, actually. Having a partner is
Yeah.
a huge part of safety, not just, for company, but also in case something happens, like you get injured or lost. Yeah.
You've got someone there to help you. It's
An
definitely
extra set of eyes.
an extra set of eyes. Exactly.
You know what really stuck with me, though, was they were talking about hypothermia.
Oh, yeah.
And they were describing these symptoms, and I was like, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Fumbling hands, stumbling, slurred speech. It's like, I'm getting cold just thinking about it.
And let's not forget shivering.
Oh,
That's kind of your first warning sign. A lot of people, they just kind of brush it off.
yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm a little cold. But that's your body telling you,
It's a sign, yeah.
hey, pay attention.
It's a sign.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, this is where layering and stuff really comes into play, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you have a good moisture-wicking base layer, then an insulating layer, and then a weatherproof outer shell. It's not just about piling on clothes. It's about doing it right.
And being able to recognize those signs not just in yourself,
Right.
but in your partner too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because sometimes you get so focused on, oh, are we going to find this animal and all that stuff, that you forget to check in with each other.
Tunnel vision. You're just so focused on what you're doing, you kind of forget about everything else.
So what happens if, like, you or your partner does start showing some of those signs? Like, what do you do?
You need to stop.
Okay.
Get somewhere sheltered if you can.
Out of the elements, yeah.
Out of the elements, exactly. And warm up. Don't be afraid to build a fire.
That's right.
Practice those fire starting skills they taught you.
Those fire starting skills. All right. So, speaking of skills, pop quiz.
Yeah.
What's the golden rule if your wound dressing gets soaked through?
Don't take it off.
Right.
Add more on top.
Add more on top.
Repeat that pressure.
That's what they said. But why is that?
So basically what you're doing is you're helping your body to clot.
Oh, okay.
So by adding more on top, you're building up that pressure, you're helping it to clot faster and stop that bleeding.
It's like plugging a leak, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And they also said to treat all accident victims for shock, even if they seem okay.
Absolutely.
Why is that so important?
Because shock can be a silent killer.
Oh, okay.
It's basically your body's response to trauma. So blood flow gets redirected to your vital organs, and you can have pale skin, rapid breathing, maybe even confusion.
Okay.
It's your body basically going into overdrive.
So even if someone like trips and falls and they're like, oh, I'm fine.
Still check.
Still check.
Better safe than
Keep
sorry.
them warm, lie them down. What was that recovery position they were showing us?
Yeah, the recovery position, if they're vomiting or unconscious, it helps keep their airway open.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that was pretty helpful. Now, navigation.
Yes.
They really hammered that compass use home.
Absolutely.
Flat and horizontal, right?
Flat and horizontal.
But why?
Well, think of your compass as a really, really small but sensitive magnet.
Yeah.
So when you hold it flat, it allows the needle to align with the magnetic north, which gives you an accurate reading. Any tilt, and you're going to throw it off.
Interesting. So it needs to be level to get a proper reading.
Exactly.
They also said something about making sure you orient yourself with the compass before leaving camp.
Very important.
Why is that?
Because then you have a baseline. So let's say you're heading east from camp
Okay.
and you need to get back. With that compass, you'll know to go west, no matter which twists and turns you take on the way.
Oh, so it's kind of like a reference point to always come back to?
Exactly. Your safety net.
Okay. And then, of course, golden rule, tell someone where you're going, when you'll be back.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Never skip that step.
Super, super important.
Super important. And an emergency, that can be the difference between,
Life or death, yeah.
a quick rescue or worse.
So we've got our navigation down. Now, you know what I always get excited about?
What's that?
The survival kit.
Oh, the survival kit.
Because they said every time you go out, you should have your survival kit.
Like your little safety blanket.
What do you have in yours?
Oh, let's see. Well, I always make sure I have a fire starter,
Okay.
something to signal with, like a mirror or a whistle,
Okay.
a basic first aid kit, water purification tablets,
Yeah.
extra layers of clothing, a good knife,
Right.
just the essentials.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah. So preparation is really everything.
Absolutely.
You've got to know your gear.
Right.
You got to study your maps,
Mhm.
pack smart, have a buddy, tell somebody where you're going. And if something does happen,
Stay calm.
stay calm.
Use those skills.
Use those skills.
Remember, your survival kit is your best friend.
It's your best friend. That's great advice.
Absolutely. But, thinking about it, it's not just about the gear and the skills. It's also about the mindset.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Thinking ahead of time, what are some of the potential risks you might encounter out in the wilderness? And how are you going to handle them? What are your limits? When is it time to call it a day?
Right. So you're saying, be prepared mentally as well as physically for what you might encounter out there.
Exactly.
Well, that's a lot to think about, and I hope everybody listening is taking notes.
Absolutely.
Happy hunting. We'll be back with more tips and tricks and advice. So stay tuned.
Stay safe.